Let me paint you a picture. It's 1987. A guy in a blazer with shoulder pads the size of aircraft carriers stands in front of a chalkboard and tells a room full of middle-class Americans, just put your money in a pension, work for 40 years, and you'll retire comfortably. That guy was wrong. Fast forward to today, now it's a guy in a Patagonia vest sitting in front of a suspiciously perfect bookshelf holding a cup of artisan coffee he definitely didn't pay for himself, telling you, just follow the 4% rule, max out your 401k, and you'll be fine. And I'm here to tell you, he might also be wrong. I'm Maddie, and today we are going deep on the retirement lies. Not the sketchy crypto bro lies, not the invest in my course lies. I'm talking about the respectable lies. The ones that come dressed in a suit, backed by a Forbes feature, and delivered with the kind of calm confidence that makes you feel like the idiot if you push back. These are the lies told by financial gurus who genuinely mean well, but are working off outdated maps in a completely different world. And some of them are just straight up protecting their own business model. Let's get into it. Lie number 1, you need $1 million to retire. The magic number, the holy grail, the figure that has been repeated so many times it's basically been carved into stone tablets somewhere. $1 million. That's the goal, baby. Hit $1 million and you're done. Pop the champagne. Finally buy that Costco membership without guilt. Here's the problem. Where you retire matters enormously, and almost no guru telling you this number is accounting for that. If you retire in Manhattan or San Francisco with $1 million, I hope you like roommates. At current cost of living, $1 million in a high-cost city might give you 10 to 12 years of comfortable living before you're eating off the senior menu at Denny's and rationing your prescriptions. Not exactly the dream. But if you retire in Knoxville, Tennessee, or Albuquerque, or honestly, if you do what a growing number of Americans are doing and retire internationally, Colombia, Portugal, Mexico, Thailand, $1 million becomes almost obscene wealth. The you need $1 million rule assumes you're going to live in an expensive American city, spend roughly the same amount you do now, and follow a very tidy financial model. Life is not tidy. Your number is personal. It depends on your spending, your health, your location, your lifestyle, and whether you have the kind of hobbies that cost money or the kind that make money. The guru gives you a magic number because it's clean, it's marketable, and it gives you something to chase. But one-size-fits-all retirement math is about as useful as one-size-fits-all pants. Technically, it covers you, but nobody looks good in it. Lie number 2. The 4% rule is basically guaranteed. Okay, grab a seat because this one gets a little nerdy and I promise it's worth it. The 4% rule comes from something called the Trinity Study, published in 1998. The idea is simple. If you withdraw 4% of your retirement portfolio per year, historically, your money lasts at least 30 years. It's elegant, it's clean, it has the feel of a law of nature. There's just one small issue. The Trinity Study was based on historical stock and bond market data from a very specific period of American economic dominance, and the financial world in 1998 looked nothing like today. Interest rates were higher then, bond yields were actually meaningful, valuations were lower, sequence of returns risk, the danger of retiring right before a market crash, was less severe because the starting conditions were different. Today, we've got elevated market valuations, decades of historically low interest rates we're only now climbing out of, global uncertainty baked into everything, and retirees living longer than ever before. If you retire at 60 and live to 95, which is increasingly possible, you're not looking at a 30-year retirement. You're looking at 35 years, maybe 40. The 4% rule wasn't designed for that. Now look, I'm not saying throw the rule in the trash. It's a useful starting point. But gurus present it like a guarantee, and it is not a guarantee. It's a historically observed pattern that may or may not hold in the specific economic environment you happen to retire in. A more conservative planner might say 3 to 3.5%. A more flexible approach might say adjust your withdrawals based on how the market's doing. Spend less in down years, spend more in boom years. There are whole books on this. But just do 4% and chill, that's a bumper sticker, not a retirement plan. Lie number 3. Debt is always bad and you should pay it off before retiring. Nothing makes a financial guru's eye twitch faster than hearing someone say they're carrying debt into retirement. The horror, the irresponsibility, the scandal. And look, Yes, high-interest consumer debt is genuinely bad. Credit card debt at 22% APR? Get rid of it. That's financial gravity. It's pulling you down, and no investment reliably beats that math. But all debt is bad is a wildly oversimplified take that ignores the actual mechanics of money. Let me give you a real scenario. You're 62 years old. You have a mortgage at 3.2% interest, locked in back in 2020 when rates were a gift from the financial gods. You also have $400,000 in an index fund averaging 7% returns historically. A financial guru is screaming at you to crush that debt, pay it off, sleep debt-free. But the math says if you're earning 7% on your investments and paying 3.2% on your mortgage, you are making money by not paying off that mortgage early. You're arbitraging the interest rate. That's not reckless, that's basic arithmetic. Now, there's a real psychological component here too. Some people sleep better without debt. That's valid, and personal finance is personal for a reason. But gurus who present all debt is bad as universal gospel are ignoring the fact that low-interest, long-duration debt in retirement can actually be a smart tool under the right conditions. The lie isn't that debt is fine. The lie is that it's always the enemy. It's a weapon. Whether it hurts you or helps you depends entirely on the interest rate, the timeline, and what else you're doing with your money. Lie number 4. Just max out your 401k and you'll be set. This one is probably the most well-intentioned lie on this list. And bless the gurus for saying it, because getting people to save anything for retirement is genuinely an uphill battle in this country. But just max out your 401k is incomplete advice dressed up as complete advice. And the gap between those two things is where a lot of people get hurt. Here's what the advice ignores. First, not all 401k plans are created equal. Some employers offer phenomenal plans with low-cost Vanguard index funds and a generous match. Others offer bloated, fee-heavy funds that are quietly eating 1% to 1.5% of your returns every year. That doesn't sound like much until you realize that 1% fee over 30 years can literally cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars in compound growth. Run the math sometime if you want to feel slightly ill. Second, the 401k is a tax-deferred vehicle, not a tax-free vehicle. Traditional 401k contributions reduce your taxes now, but you pay taxes on every withdrawal in retirement. If you believe tax rates are going up in the future, and given the national debt situation, that's not a crazy assumption, loading everything into a traditional 401k might mean you're deferring taxes into a higher rate. Roth conversions, taxable brokerage accounts, and other tax diversification strategies exist for exactly this reason. Third, there's the liquidity problem. You can't touch your 401k without a penalty until 59 and a half. If you're planning an early retirement, or if life throws a serious curveball, medical emergency, job loss, family crisis, having all your wealth locked in a retirement account is a real problem. Max out your 401k? Generally a good idea, but treating it like the only move? That's leaving strategy on the table. Lie number 5. Social Security will be there for you or won't be there at all. I'm combining two lies into one here because they're basically mirror images of the same problem: overconfidence. On one side, you've got the old-school financial advisor who tells every client, "Don't worry, factor in your full Social Security benefit. It'll all be fine." They build entire retirement projections around Social Security as though it's as reliable as the sun rising. On the other side, you've got the doom and gloom crowd on the internet who have been telling people for 15 years that Social Security is going bankrupt and will be completely gone by 2033, so don't count on it at all. Both of these takes are wrong, and both of them lead people to make bad decisions. Here's the actual situation. Social Security's trust fund is projected to be depleted in the mid-2030s. That's real. But depleted trust fund does not mean zero benefits. It means ongoing payroll taxes would cover roughly 75 to 80 cents on every dollar of promised benefits. That's a cut, and it's a serious problem, but it is not the apocalypse. Congress, for all its dysfunction, has patched Social Security before and will almost certainly patch it again, because cutting benefits for 70 million American retirees and near retirees is not a winning political strategy for any party that wants to continue existing. So building a retirement plan that requires full Social Security benefits is risky, but building one that assumes absolutely zero Social Security income is also overly pessimistic and could cause you to save so aggressively that you sacrifice your entire present quality of life for a future that ends up better than expected.
The smart move? Build a plan that works at 75 to 80% of your projected Social Security benefit. That way, you're hedged against cuts without working yourself into the grave. Lie number 6. Your expenses will drop dramatically in retirement. The classic financial planning assumption goes like this. You spend a lot while you're working, commuting, business clothes, lunches out, stress shopping, and in retirement, you'll slow down, simplify, and naturally spend less. They'll plug 70% or 80% of your pre-retirement income into their projections and call it a day. Here is what actually happens for a lot of retirees. Early retirement, typically 60 to 75, is often the most expensive phase. You're healthy, you're active, you have time to actually do all the things you deferred for 40 years. Travel, hobbies, visiting grandkids across the country, golf, renovating the house because now you actually live in it all day. The spending in this phase frequently exceeds working years. Mid-retirement, roughly 75 to 85, is where spending might actually drop. People travel less, go out less, and generally want less stuff. Late retirement, 85 and beyond, is where healthcare costs enter the chat, and they don't knock politely, they kick the door in. Long-term care, prescription drugs, assisted living, home health aides, these costs can be staggering. The average cost of a private room in a nursing facility in the United States is now over $100,000 per year. So when a guru tells you that you'll only need 70% of your current income in retirement, ask them which phase of retirement they mean, because the real spending curve looks less like a gentle downslope and more like a swimming pool, lower in the middle, deep at both ends. Lie number 7. You can time the market when you're close to retirement. This one kills me. And it kills portfolios. As people approach retirement, a common piece of advice is to de-risk, move out of stocks and into bonds and cash. The logic is sensible. You can't afford a big crash right before or after you retire because you don't have time to recover. This is called sequence of returns risk, and it's real. But some gurus and some people's own fear take this way too far. They move 70, 80, sometimes 100% of their portfolio into safe assets years before retirement, and they do it thinking they're being smart and prudent. Here's the trap. If you're retiring at 65 and you live to 90, you have a 25-year investment horizon. That is a long time. Equities, with all their volatility, have historically been the best way to grow wealth over long periods. If you pull everything out of the market at 60 because you're almost retired, you might protect yourself from a crash, but you're also surrendering decades of compound growth. And here's the extra cruel part. Being too conservative early in retirement is actually a bigger risk to your long-term financial health than market volatility, because inflation slowly erodes the purchasing power of your safe money. The real answer, like most real answers in personal finance, is nuanced. Yes, reduce risk as you approach retirement, but don't flee the market entirely. A well-diversified portfolio with an appropriate equity allocation based on your time horizon and your risk tolerance is not the same as put it all in bonds because the market is scary. Fear is not a financial strategy. The problem with most retirement lies isn't that they're told by evil people. Most financial gurus are smart, well-meaning, and genuinely trying to help. The problem is that they're selling simplicity in a world that doesn't cooperate with simple rules. $1 million target. It's clean, it's tweetable, it sells books and gets YouTube views. Yeah, I know, the irony is not lost on me. But your retirement isn't a tweet. It's a 20 to 30-year project that involves your health, your family, your location, your personality, your tax situation, and about 1,000 other variables that no guru on the internet can account for without actually knowing you. So here's what I'd actually tell you. Use these rules as rough starting points. Get genuinely curious about the specifics. Ask better questions than how much do I need? Ask how much do I need given my specific life and goals? And when someone presents retirement planning as a neat set of universal rules that work for everyone, be suspicious. Not paranoid, not cynical, just appropriately, financially grown-up suspicious. Drop in the comments, which of these lies have you been told? Which ones did you believe? I'd genuinely love to know. I'll see you in the next one. Don't let the gurus gaslight you.